is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Running on fumes right now. I spent the last 2 weeks was in Singapore last week. I was in Paris this week. I'm home for 2 days, and I leave for Australia tonight. That's why we're doing a Tuesday show. One, I gotta bounce tonight, and two, you got your fantasy football draft tomorrow.
I do.
Dangerously close to week one. I don't know.
But look,
the day before,
Travis Kelce got hurt today, and if I would have drafted his ass, I would have not had him.
It is a there are pluses and minuses, but if there's anything where you have to like delay it, because I've had that happen before, where it's like, oh, I just can't make it. Can we do it one more day? Fuck.
Nope, this is the day.
You are Cortez burning the ships when you arrive at the Americas. We are conquering or not. No
retreat. The thing is, my brother is the commissioner of this league.
Okay.
And like any other lawyer you might find out there, he may not always be on the up and up, because I have pick 9 this year, and I consistently have ass picks every single year.
It's just random draw?
Yes. He does like a random draw thing, but I think he fucks with it.
Well, that's your problem. You have no creativity. It's got to be like a battle royale.
We've done it before. We've done other things before. We each were assigned numbers at the dog track, and in race 5, let's see what number who showed up first, right?
Okay.
And then we've done different things. We've had my mom pull out names from a hat.
Okay.
We've done a lot of different things, but
you can tell which son she loves more. That's the case.
You can tell who she look. My mom, under her phone, under her contacts. My sister is me cookie, like my cookie. That's her. That's my sister.
Okay. Okay.
And then my brother is mi Jesuson. His name is Jesus, Jesse. And I'm Juan.
Big cheese.
Just Juan.
Just Juan.
Just the name. Okay.
Juan, which is Spanish for disappointment.
Which is Spanish for the one I didn't want.
Well, the one she didn't want is in a great mood, because we are just 4 days away.
My balls are tightening up.
1, 2, 3, 4 days away from the start of the NFL season. And what better place to start than at Mile High against the Donkeys that we have made our bitches for 3 straight seasons.
Nothing's going to make me happier than to watch Maxx Crosby run Ruffles' face mask into the grass. Just tackle him and just drive him right through.
When you get that big chunk of turf in the corner, right, and the guy's like trying to pick it out, but he only gets like little pieces at a time. Then he eventually gives up, and then like an assistant coach comes in with a chisel and like gets it out.
It's a pen. I was freaking working it.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. When they give up on it, when they're just like, fuck
it.
I'm worth $250 million. I'm not going to pull dirt out of my face mask. Not my way.
Hire somebody for that.
It is football time, and we are excited. But because it is the start of the Raiders NFL season, wild shit is already happening. Now, we had tackled this an entire video on YouTube Live on Tuesday afternoon. So if you missed that, go ahead and check it out. But we still want to touch on it for the pod and people who didn't catch it. Chandler Jones has lost his marbles. He went on Instagram and called out and basically said, I'm pissed that I can't get into the facility to work out. I have to go work at a high school. He called out Josh McDaniels. He called out Dave Ziegler. He called out the organization. He's like, I don't want to play here if they don't like me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we thought, okay, his social media got hacked. And then, bam, he shoots a video in the same run of it's him. He's in his bathroom, and there's a picture of him in the mirror. He's got his Bible verse inscribed on the mirror. Like, yeah, that's Chandler. And so here we are, 4 days away from kicking off at week 1, and Chandler Jones is completely off his rocker.
It's as of right now, as of our recording, we have no new information. It's just really weird for all this to go down, considering what we've seen from Chandler Jones in the last 24 hours prior to this meltdown. You know, I don't want. I retract that. I don't want to call it a meltdown. This episode, because we don't know if it's a meltdown. It could be totally, you know, like warranted, right? It could be valid that he acts very upset. So I don't know.
Well, look, let me cut you off real quick. Whatever he's upset about, it can't be what he says he's upset about. There's no way the Raiders are like, no, Chandler Jones, we don't like you. You can't work out here. Like there's no way that's what happened. That's 0% reality.
That's
right?
how Chandler Jones is positioning it. That's why I'm like, dude, there's got to be there's something there that we're not getting.
Something's brewing under the surface for him to blow up and say that this is the cause. Sorry to cut you off.
It's weird, man. It's super weird. I'm trying to like, even now, like I'm just flipping through Twitter just to see if I can find anything. And there's really nothing. There's really nothing out there. Now, we shouldn't be surprised by that because the Raiders are pretty tight-lipped about their stuff. But ultimately, when you have, you know, Chandler Jones calling out in a friendly manner other pass rushers in the league that he's going to get them, and he's talking about year 12, let's get it. We're super pumped up. And he's showing off that he's buying his head coach and his GM expensive sunglasses as a thank you, you know, for the season. It just seems like a really big 180 turn and a really fiery, dark turn for him to just say, you know, I'm not going to play for these guys.
That's what I'm wondering if like the gift was like an olive branch for something. You know what I mean? Like you always wonder like, oh, you got your wife a $20,000 necklace. What did you like? What are you apologizing for? You know what I mean? Like, what did you do wrong? Or she's got that fucking 5-carat rock on her finger. You know, like maybe it was something like that. Like, was it just out of the blue? I got a lot of really close friends. I never got them nice pairs of sunglasses just because they're homies with me. You know?
I don't know, man. It's again,
so that's what I'm wondering if it was a 180 or if it was all tied in. Like there's like, hey, we're kind of rocky. Hey, let's, you know, let me get you something nice. We both are in this together. We all want the same thing. Let bygones be bygones.
It's just a really sad situation. It's very sad to have this happen because ultimately we are 4 days away from kickoff. Chandler Jones, whether you like him or don't like him or feel he has something left in the tank or doesn't, he's, you know, he's a starter. He's a starter. He's our starting defense.
Here's the defense.
Football wise, we need Chandler Jones to be able to do what I feel we can do this year, because we need Chandler Jones to play at near the level he played at the end of the year last year, consistently throughout this season, in order to be able to affect the quarterback the way we need to help the rest of the defense. We need him on this team playing at a good level. And
he's taking too much cap room to just be whatever.
He's taking up too much cap space, and he's definitely has the ear of a lot of the players on the team to be acting like this if it's not justified. You know, if it's just him flipping out, or if there's, God forbid, if there's some, you know, mental health issue or episode.
Yes, remember in 2016 when he had that episode?
Yeah, I really hope this is not it. It's very it'd be very disheartening if this was the case.
And this is and it's not fair, but it should be this way. When you have a history of something like this, and if you guys missed it in 2016, he took that synthetic marijuana stuff that is like awful for you. I don't even know what it's called. Like I'm one of the biggest drug dumbasses. Like I don't know anything about it, but I do know there's a synthetic marijuana that like guys in the military take because you don't really test positive for it in normal drug testing. He took it, lost his mind, and that's, you know, that's like tied to him now. It's like,
to be fair, if I looked like Chandler Jones, I'd be walking around shirtless everywhere.
Fair, and that is fair. Would you do it in January in Foxborough, Massachusetts?
It depends on if I have my nipples pierced or not.
So the main reason I remember this from 9 years ago is when Arthur Jones, the oldest brother, popped positive for PEDs, and John Jones, the UFC champion, best MMA fighter of all time, was going through his legal problems. And it's like, oh, now Chandler Jones has it too. Like all three boys. Which made me wonder, like, if you're Old Man Jones, if you're Arthur Jones Sr., and one of your sons had a fine career in the NFL. Well, I think you won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, Arthur. Mm-hmm. Your middle son is the greatest MMA fighter ever. And your youngest son is a Super Bowl champion, multiple-time Pro Bowler. But they all have these, like, weird legal issues.
Wait. Isn't Chandler older than John?
Chandler's the youngest. John is the middle.
Oh, never mind.
It goes Arthur, John, Chandler. If you're their dad, are you like the proudest dad in the world? Or are you kind of like, ugh, I got to get these kids in line?
They're too rich to get in line now. They're going to be who they're going to be.
Well, that's kind of like if you're a dad, because their dad's is a pastor. Who's a pastor in upstate New York. And so you're like that. You're like, ooh, did I fail them when I was raising them?
Pastors. You seen Friday?
No, I haven't seen Friday. My head's been in the sand since I was.
Bernie Mac was a little rough. I'm not saying anything about Mr. Jones. Pastor Jones, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying we can't tie someone's moral fiber to their occupation.
Well, and again, I'm not saying he's a saint or anything. I'm just saying, like, all right, he's a guy that at least that's a part of, his fiber of his being is like, yeah, family man and raising kids right. And, anyway, if you're Old Man Jones, are you like stoked on them or are you embarrassed?
I think you're stoked on them, and you just like forget the rest.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait, should happen.
Just like forget, like just like no, they were all framed. That's not true. None of it's true. All that's true are the rings. It's the only thing that really happened. The rings and the money.
I was watching boxing on ESPN, like Boxing After Dark. They had it was like Thursday nights. They had like boxing on late. Mm-hmm. And this dude got knocked down like seriously like 8 times in one round, right? And I'm like, what are they doing here? This guy's getting knocked down left and right. And they stopped the fight in the middle of the round, right? Mm-hmm. And they interviewed the ref, just some old crackety dude, right? Like, dude, what happened? It looked like he's like, no, they were slips. They were all slips. I'm like, what the fuck? That guy must have fucked his wife or something. He's ready to get something thrown in there. Jesus.
Yeah. So I don't know what's happening with Chandler Jones.
It's a shame,
whatever it is, it's not good. Whatever, it could end up being, the worst part of it's over. It can smooth over. But whatever it is, it's not good, especially when it's week 1. This isn't some like July training camp shit you get out of your system in the summer because it's 100 degrees in the desert. Anyway.
I'm just really, I'm really concerned about Chandler's mental frame right now. Where is he focused? What is he focused on moving into the season? And I can't talk about anything else right now because I don't know. None of us do. None of us know what's going on right yet as we're recording this. So I'm only going to talk about what we know. And if indeed it is some kind of this mental lapse, it doesn't bode well for his availability to play. And it's something that is a pretty substantial loss for us. I don't know that we can definitely just discount Chandler Jones's contributions to this defense as a starter, or at least what we were expecting of him as a starter.
It's funny you bring that up because the Raiders have released their depth chart officially, and he's a starter. No giant surprises as far as who's starting and who isn't. Greg Van Roten took over for Bars. He's now the starter. The O-line's basically the same. All the same starting wide receivers, Myers, Renfrow, Adams. Maybe Michael Mayer would have started over Austin Hooper, but it seems like Hooper will get to start until Mayer's up to speed. Josh Jacobson, great. They have Brian Boyer over Aiden O'Connell as the second stringer. Jerry Tillery, Bilal Nichols as the defensive tackles. No other real surprises with the DBs and defense as far as who's starting. This is our team. This is the squad. This is the army we're going to battle with. Those are your number ones right there.
I mean, I think we kind of all saw it. And this is a base, defense. I don't know that we're going to have 3 linebackers on the field at one time. I don't know we're going to have only 2 corners on the field at one time. So, yeah, it just makes it makes sense. We kind of figured the rest of the stuff.
Who do you think would be the third corner if we're in the nickel?
Oh, Bennett.
Yeah,
Bennett.
Especially with Faison hurt.
Yeah, Bennett for sure. Bennett would be the starting outside corner with Hobbs in the slot.
So I figure we would rank the positions on the team. Which position groupings are the best and worst? Rank the 9 position groupings on the Raiders. And I came up with a list, and you basically agreed with it. You're like, maybe these could have switched there. Maybe that could have switched there. We can get into that more.
I don't care.
But more or less,
yeah,
we're kind of on board.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start at the top or start at the bottom? Front or back?
Oh, let's start at the top.
Start at the top? All right, start at the top and work our way to we got to earn the back. You know what I'm saying? We got to get to the back early.
Get it.
Number 1, and you might chuckle a little bit, but number 1 is special teams. The best kicking tandem in the NFL. And having a fantastic special teams and fantastic kicking tandem is... It's kind of like when you don't have it, you realize you don't have it. And when you do have it, sometimes you forget how good it is.
Yeah, when you don't have it, it's a lot more stress in the game. You're like, okay, here we go. Every time you kick the ball, it's like, you get a little bit of a heebie-jeebies going on. But yeah, but we don't have to worry about that. We have 2 excellent kickers.
We could easily have both guys go to the Pro Bowl this season.
Oh, for sure. Easy.
Very, very real possibility that Daniel Carlson and AJ Cole both go to the Pro Bowl this season. And let's see what DeAndre Carter does as a returner. I have high expectations for him as a returner as well. Number 2, best room in the in the Raiders facility, wide receiver. We've got maybe the best in the NFL, Davante Adams. Another true Pro Bowler, Hunter Renfrow. Jacoby Myers is coming off an 800-yard season. You got a lot of youth, a lot of speed. Not a lot of size, but certainly the system that Josh McDaniels wants to do we have. And just outstanding wide receivers to begin with. When we're letting guys like Philip Dorsett go, because you know what? You're not just going to make, you just can't make this squad of 6 wide receivers. You got a good room.
I think we saw it from the beginning. I think that we're a lot more well-equipped to handle injury. Look, in the NFL, injury is not an if, it's a when, right? You guys are going to get hurt, if not for the entire season, for a game here and there. And I think that we have the players to be able to sustain a high-quality offense from a wide receiver perspective with the depth that we have.
Number 3, best position group on the Raiders, running back. And this is almost exclusively on one guy. We got Josh Jacobs, 900 yards after contact last season. Just the amount of yards he got after someone hit them, that alone is a great season for most running backs.
He had more yards after contact last year than he had the previous year, total.
And he had way more scrimmage yards. And most importantly, all the things that we were like, look, we always like Josh Jacobs as a very good running back. Very glad he's a Raider. Mwah, bless you, Josh Jacobs. We're like, okay, there's a couple things he doesn't do. He doesn't stay healthy. He doesn't catch the ball in the backfield that well. He doesn't, break away, like give you a kind of a home run threat. Mm-hmm. He did all those things last year.
All that shit.
All those things he had never done for us. All the like, oh, well, he's great, but he needs to do X, Y, and Z better. He did X, Y, Z, A, B, C, making up letters of the alphabet. He did it all last season. God bless him. Because the rest of the running back squad, they fill very specific roles. We're one of the few teams with a full-time fullback. We got like a third down back. We got guys that, they fill roles, but it is Josh Jacobs carrying this run game, and rightfully so.
Yeah, this is just on the starter, Josh Jacobs. It's very encouraging that he's all smiles. It's very encouraging that he's like, yo, no hard feelings. It was all business. But where everyone's good, and he's excited to play. And I think he'll be okay with a $14 million tag if we tag him next year. So I don't think we have to go through this again next year.
Number 4, offensive line. A little too high, you say? Well, I don't know if it's because the rest of the squads aren't great or if this squad's really coming up. But they started off really rough last season. They built a lot of momentum. They were definitely way better in week 17 than they were in week 1. And it's almost exactly the same squad. Like we said, a weak link, Alex Barr's gone, Greg Van Roten in at right guard. And what have we always been talking about with this O-line? Continuity. And that's what we got. Not a lot of great depth, but it's basically all the same guys from a unit that was continually improving last season.
Yeah, they were getting better and better every year. And because the unit, actually the players, the individual players in the unit were getting better as the season went along, it really shone the light on the weak link as the season came to a close. He's no longer with us. Van Roten came in and he's now starting.
I like how you talk about him like he's dead. Alex Bars is no longer.
As far as his Raider career, I don't want to call anybody out, but
we sent some flowers to his widow.
He's no longer with us.
No longer with us,
and we have a replacement. Pass rush wise, pass protection wise, he's a lot better. Van Roten is much better than Alex Bars. So I think that we're going to see that, especially up the middle, we're going to have a lot more. This is a group that still gave the quarterback average the most time in the league to throw last year. So I think that with the offense being run the way that Josh McDaniels wants it to run, I think we're going to be fine. And I think that this group being young, being talented, and being together for a second season, I think it's going to be a big uptick for these guys.
It went from liability to someone you can deal with. Someone you can count on. What are you doing? Get out of here. And my 3-year-old just broke in. Close the door. Get out of here, you. You came here to dance on the grave of Alex Bars? No. Frankie, Daddy's working. Go. Thank you, princess. Close the door, please.
She is so stinking cute, dude.
The cuteness to disobedience factor is exactly proportional.
Doesn't want to close the door. I'm not closing this door.
He's like, I'm using nonviolent resistance.
I will shut it, but not close it all the way.
Yeah. I will do things my way because I'm a 3-nager, and I will 3-nager hard. Number 5, 5th-ranked position group on the Raiders. Defensive line. And kind of like the running back room, this is basically all because of one guy. Maxx. You got Maxx fucking Crosby. You're doing pretty good. Obviously, everything with Chandler Jones completely up in the air. We both love the potential of Tyree Wilson. Again, I think this season we really need to temper our expectations. When he got hurt last year in college, didn't play hardly any of the preseason, hardly practiced at all, and he was drafted as a project to begin with. So the learning curve is going to be steep. Again, he was drafted to be a cornerstone of this defense for 10 years. He wasn't drafted to light the world on fire this season. And their defensive tackles are pretty terrible. So the potential on our ends group is pretty high. But as of right now, it's still the Maxx Crosby show and nothing else, pretty much.
It's up in the air, I think, because you can't discount how important it is to have a player like Maxx Crosby on the line, helping the rest of the line. Mm-hmm. Of course, the rest of the players do have to push forward and make plays on their own, but things just become a lot easier when you have a guy like that taking up so much tension on every play, not just on pass plays, but Maxx Crosby's gotten a lot more disruptive against the run as his careers come along, and he has to be accounted for in each and every single play. And when you have a player like that on the line playing with you, it makes things a little bit easier on you. So it's like you said, the same thing with the running backs. If for whatever reason he misses some snaps or some time, it's going to be very difficult for this defensive line to play at that same level.
Well, look, last year it was the same thing, right? We thought Maxx Crosby and Chandler Jones, and it would be this great setup. We were near the bottom in pressures. We were near the bottom in sacks, near the bottom in turnovers. And that was even with Maxx Crosby playing lights out. So I was with you. I was like, yeah, Maxx Crosby's going to raise all boats. Didn't happen last season. Now, if Tyree Wilson can maybe get a little ahead of schedule, if Chandler Jones kind of pick up where he left off a little towards the end of last season and this season, or if defensive tackles play a little better, I mean, look, the potential for improvement is there. But last year, Maxx Crosby on his own could not raise this defense by itself. Like, that's how bad the defense was when even Maxx freaking Crosby can't get them going well. Number 6, quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo starter, according to the depth chart, like we mentioned, it is, as of right this second, more or less officially Brian Hoyer as backup, and then the 4th rounder, Aiden O'Connell Farva, as the 3rd stringer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that after the first couple of weeks that Farva is going to be the 3rd string for too long. Mm-hmm. But, I mean,
it feels like exactly what we talked about before the preseason, where, you know, knock on wood, Jimmy G goes down for like 8 weeks or a whole season. It's like, all right, Aiden O'Connell's going to get those reps. If it's like, all right, Jimmy G goes down for like 2 quarters and we have the lead, it's like, all right, Brian Hoyer, go in there and try to just like stop the bleeding a little bit. Be the tourniquet as opposed to, I don't know, CPR.
I guess. I mean, look, I think that's going to be more of a Hoyer thing, is to just kind of like you said, stop the bleeding. Mm-hmm. But I think for Farva coming in there, it's going to be more of like, okay, we still have a chance to win this game, and we can still do more. I think that Farva's shown that he can do more in this offense than Brian Hoyer, which is more of a let me just kind of like keep everything on an even keel.
Number 7 out of 9 position groups. Number 7, tight ends. Again, you got kind of the over-the-hill-ish Austin Hooper as your starter. I think there'll be a lot of 2 tight end sets while they get Michael Mayer, 2nd-round pick out of Notre Dame, kind of getting his groove. Not a lot of dynamicism. This is kind of just like, all right, we're going to hold serve as Mayer develops. And again, rookie 2nd-rounder. I would love for him to immediately start taking over. That's normally not the case. It takes guys, a season or 2 to develop. And especially a guy like Michael Mayer, who's like extremely solid, but not I would say he was the best overall tight end in the draft, but certainly nowhere near the most dynamic, right? A crazy athlete, jumps super high, runs a 4.6. Like he wasn't, and those are the kind of guys that can make a splash right away because they have athleticism to kind of carry where they don't have an experience in technique. While as Mayer is like kind of the total package, but because he's not leaning on otherworldly athleticism, he needs to come along and get his entire game right before he's really going to be able to start delivering. So again, the potential with Mayer is great. I think this position group is going to start going up and up and up as the seasons develop, or as the seasons drag on. But as of right now, still a 2nd-round rookie with a steep learning curve.
Yeah, look, I think once Michael Mayer shows that he can block NFL defensive linemen, I think he'll take over that spot. I think his ability to be a receiver of the football is a lot better than Austin Hooper's. I think Austin Hooper has maybe a little bit more experience and some more technique in blocking, which is big in the McDaniels offense, to have your tight end be another like an extension of the offensive line. So I think once he shows that he can be comfortable and I'm going to say proficient, but serviceable at doing that, I think he'll get a lot more playing time.
Number 8, ranked position group on the Raiders. I went secondary. And 8 and 9, you can argue flip-flop here and there. I went secondary. Terrible last season. Improved in the sense that we added a couple Marcuses. Marcus Peters at corner, Marcus Epps at safety. Certainly an improvement, no doubt about it. But these were also 2 guys coming off of roughly their worst seasons of their careers. They could be completely shot, or it could just be I think it was Peters that was coming off of major surgery the year before, and he's kind of coming back. Maybe there's still something more there. We'll see. But only because the DBs, the secondary was so bad last season, was the additions of these two guys are we getting excited because they were just so bad. Other than Nate Hobbs, there's not a lot to be excited about. And he's coming off of injury and a kind of a whatever season because he barely played.
Yeah, I think the fact that kind of similar to the offensive line, the pieces that we kept, it's almost like a mix of the offensive line and wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Like the guys that we kept are in the system another year, plus one of the key players is coming back from injury. That's why he didn't perform well last year. It wasn't because he wasn't a good player or he didn't get the system. It wasn't that. It was he was injured, which is Nate Hobbs. You get players in there who have made plays in the league. Now, when you look at Marcus Epps, when I've watched him play, he reminds me of a Jonathan Abram, but that can cover or cover better than Jonathan Abram can. And any little improvement is welcome. And just the fact that we see how close Abram and Merrick have become, and Epps and Merrick, excuse me. And I never want to discount, even though he's a little bit older, the addition of a playmaker on the outside.
Yeah,
because we had a lot of opportunities last year that we didn't capitalize on. And it's just one of those things that we lost so many close games last year. To be able to have a guy that makes plays, and that kind of it becomes infectious to the rest of the secondary. If we can make a couple more of those plays that we didn't make last year, I think we can see a nice little turnaround.
It is constructed kind of nice. A ton of youth, and then 2 seasoned veterans start kind of, hey, bring these guys along. It's constructed with the future in mind, but the cupboards are pretty damn bare right now, unfortunately.
And that's what you see normally when you look at young players. It doesn't look so good until the young players show you what they can do, and that's what we're hoping on.
Number 9, the last ranked position group on the Raiders, linebacker. I don't know if any of these guys would start on any other team in the NFL.
I wouldn't go that
Davante
far.
Deablo, Luke Masterson. We're hoping Deablo can develop. Spillane was a special teamer that we brought in, and now he's a starter. Masterson, just a guy, but now he's starting. Definitely the weakest part of our defense.
Yeah, and look, teams in the NFL have shown that. Like let's take a look at the last Super Bowl champ, the Kansas City Chiefs. How many great players do they have on their defense? One.
Well,
one great player on their defense. They have some really good ones, and then just have a bunch of guys, and they build around the strength of their defense. That's kind of what we're doing. We have our great player, which is Maxx Crosby. The really good players are yet to be seen. We know that Pierce has been a really, really good player in the past. We know that Hobbs has shown that he can be a really good player in the past. We're looking at other guys, who knows what's going on with Chandler Jones. He has shown to be a really good player in the past. And we're building around the main guys. So the blueprint's there. Even if you take a look at like the Rams, like they had their great player, and then they had a almost as good, very good / almost great in Ramsey. And they had a bunch of guys who had career years that have gone to other places and not necessarily fared as well. But you have those central 1 or 2 guys, and then you kind of just build around those guys. And I see that's what we're doing here. So I don't know that the linebackers need to be extra special. We're not all going to be the Tampa Bay defense where they have fucking stars on every fucking level of the defense when they won the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. But if they can do their job, I think we're going to be fine at linebacker. But I agree, the resume and all that stuff is it's not great.
The interior of the defense is pretty rough, like defensive tackle into linebacker. If you want, I think a lot of teams are going to be like, let's try running up the middle against these guys and see what happens. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive game plans in the run game, which is up the throats of the middle and see where they can go. So those are the 9 position groups ranked according to the Autumn Windbags preseason rankings. Number 9 linebacker, number 8 secondary, 7 tight end, 6 quarterback, 5 defensive line, 4 O-line, 3 running back, 2 wide receiver, and number 1, God bless you, AJ Cole and Daniel Carlson, special teams. We'll see how that pans out as the season progresses. In some Raider news, interesting little, because it's really fun and sexy to talk about is cap stuff. But it matters. According to Field Yates, the Raiders have restructured the contract of Jimmy Garoppolo, creating $17 million in 2023 cap space. That's a lot.
Dario.
So there's 2 things about this.
For those of you who think that the freaking Raiders are broke.
Oh, they're not broke.
Still stupid. We're just going to cut you a check for $17 million as a bonus instead of come on, man.
A couple things. One, the Raiders were roughly $7-ish million over the cap, so it's not like they created $17 million in usable cap space. It's like, all right, they needed to be they were over the cap, they need to be under, right? So they used $17 million to create, to take that $7 million deficit, and now they have $10 million surplus, which is right in that weird middle ground because you don't want to get exactly at the cap. You want a little wiggle room. You want to be able to move guys around mid-season, preseason. You want to be able to make moves, and you want to have some wiggle room, right? But $10 million is right at the border of, are you creating cap space for something? Or are you creating cap space for wiggle room? Because $10 million is a lot of wiggle room.
A lot of wiggle room. So look, I'll remix what you said. $10 million is very close to getting a big something or a lot of little somethings. Whoops, fumble. And he recovers.
Recovered his own fumble. Well done.
So yeah, that's what's interesting. And if you want to connect dots, it could possibly be one of the reasons why Chandler Jones may be upset because he may be on the chopping block or on the trading block or whatever. Who knows? But it can't be ignored. $10 million can't be ignored because normally teams don't walk around $10 million under the cap. That's not typical.
That's a Pro Bowler at every position with the exception of quarterback and end.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you can get a damn good player for 5 right now. But it's definitely not. See, nothing is nothing. It's definitely something. And if it would have been 5, 6, whatever, okay, wow. But it's 10, and that's something more than something.
The other part of this is, what does this mean for Jimmy Garoppolo's contract moving forward? So, if we wanted to move on from him after this season, can we? Is this extending? Are they just adding more void years we're going to have to eat dead cap on? Is this are they just pushing everything to next season? We won't know yet until the contract details come out, but I'm very curious what this means for Jimmy G. Are we now committed to him longer than we wanted to, or more so next season? Because there's $33 million guaranteed, not total, guaranteed $33 million to Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not saying I want to move on from him right away, but I think it's fair to say all of Raider Nation is kind of looking this skeptically and saying all right, we want to be able to get out of this if things go south. What does this mean for Jimmy G? That's my next question.
It's hey, it could be just foresight in GMing. Like you said, well, if we can, if we have enough to create 5, can we create 10? Type of thing. Who knows? But again, it's definitely not nothing. It's something. It's for a reason, I think.
Something that we will follow. Are you ready to do our first breakdown of an NFL regular season game? Are you ready to do our week 1 Preview, Raiders at Broncos. Broncos, 4-point favorites, mile high. The Raiders have made the Broncos their bitch for the last 3 straight seasons. 3 straight seasons having beaten the Broncos. Are you ready to do this? Are you ready to get into the X's and O's of an actual matchup? I don't know if I'm ready. This is
difficult. It's difficult because we know what Sean Payton wants to do offensively. We just haven't seen him do that with the personnel he has with Denver. Mm-hmm. And they have, some injuries to their weapons. We have the running back coming back from injury. We have, Jeudy being a little bit injured. You have a Ruffle who's a little bit slimmed down. Is he gonna run more? Does he want to run more? How long is he gonna run? How many hits does he take until he stops running more? There's a new defensive coordinator. Like, he lost some pieces. Like, it's not all hunky dory out there in Mile High Land.
I still think that the Vic Fangio effect on their defense 2 seasons ago and last season cannot be overstated. I mean, he is the best defensive coordinator in football and can turn a defense around on a dime. Like, that's how good Fangio is.
He's in fucking Miami now. Fuck.
He's insanely good.
He's very good as a defense.
And I think a big reason why the Broncos defense was so good last season was kind of the hangover from Fangio. They still had kind of his genius just kind of running with that program. Like you said, they missed some pieces, and now they're one more season removed from Vic Fangio. I think the defense is going to hit a big dose of reality and be nowhere near as good as it was the last 2 seasons. On the flip side, Sean Payton is to offense what Fangio is to defense.
Yeah.
How bad was Russell Wilson last season? Was he seriously just like broken and there's no recovering? Or was Nathaniel Hackett just that big of a hack and didn't know how to handle the strengths of a Russell Wilson? We will get the answer to that question unquestionably on Sunday. Because Sean Payton is a genius when it comes to maximizing what your quarterbacks can and can't do and playing to their strengths. So if he can't get something out of Russell Wilson, ain't nobody can.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest turn with Russell Wilson's career is going to be the fact that he knows that there's a sheriff in town. Mm-hmm. Last year, he was trying to be the sheriff. He was trying to be the guy who just pretty much ran everything, and he ran all over fucking Hackett. He's not going to be able to do that with Sean Payton. He's going to have to do things. There is a level of expectation set upon him that is set in stone. Like, you have to do at least this, and we'll see how he goes, because it from what we're hearing from his last few years in Seattle and from his last year in Denver, he doesn't necessarily work that well with those type of expectations.
A matchup I can't wait to watch is Patrick Surtain versus Davante Adams, mostly because Adams has been winning that matchup recently. And that's great when you can take their best defender and beat him one-on-one with Davante.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that's what the Broncos tried to do on some plays last season was, we have our Davante stopper, and it didn't work out so well.
And that's what they can do most games, right? The Broncos. They can just be like, all right, we'll put Surtain on their best guy.
Built that way. That's how their defense is built.
And then we can scheme around everybody else, right? It's like, hey, you take care of this guy, and then now we only have to scheme around, one less playmakers. But you can't do that with Davante Adams when he owns your ass.
No. He sunned your ass. He ain't ready yet.
Patrick Surtain's going to be following Davante Adams, like holding the inside of his pocket, like in prison.
Oh, shit. He a prison bitch. You called him a chavala. Damn.
Bitch. The biggest X factor for me, Raiders secondary. The weapons of the Broncos plus the does Russell Wilson still have it factor leads me to believe that the Raiders secondary doesn't have to be insane, but can it be competent? I think with Maxx Crosby, our pass rush, with Russell Wilson's issues, but the pretty good weapons that the Broncos have, but Jeudy questionable, some other things. I don't think the DBs have to be. If the DBs can be competent, I think that can carry the defense. I just don't know if our DBs are competent yet. We have nothing that hasn't been proven to us last season, and we haven't made the moves to say that is or is not the case. This will be a nice test.
Yeah, my X factor is the defensive line. I think that they do need. Look, if Russell Wilson has anything left in the tank, we're going to need the defense to step up because we need to keep him in the pocket. We need to keep him uncomfortable. We need to hurry his throws. We need to make things difficult for him. If he doesn't have anything left, we need to show the freaking league that this guy ain't it, and just stop them before they start. Either way, we need to make sure that the defense, everything in the defense starts with the defensive line for us. So they're the biggest X factor for me this week.
Also offensively, courtesy of Tristan Kuhn, Josh Jacobs' stats versus the Broncos. He has owned the donkeys. He has ridden the donkeys like Seabiscuit. He averages 22 rushes, 103 yards, and 1.3 touchdowns per game against the Broncos.
Yeah, he kills it.
Now, Josh Jacobs hasn't been around, right? We all know the contract situation, holding out, not training with the team, not practicing with the team, didn't play any preseason games. That means something. Now, I get it. It's not like he's a rookie. The O-line's basically the same. The scheme's basically the same. So, he's not going to a new team, fresh off the boat. But that matters. Practices matter. There's a reason why they do it. And he'll say, of course, how in great shape he is, but we have no idea, right? We haven't seen him. So can Josh Jacobs be the same Josh Jacobs he's been against the Broncos? And if he's not, is it because he held out? Little something to worry about, something to watch.
Yeah, something to keep in mind.
Anything else on that matchup? What do you expect out of Jimmy G?
I expect him to be
first game as a Raider. Dinking dunk?
No, I don't
keep
think
the jersey clean.
He's not a dinking dunk guy. He has more, yards.
He's a get the ball out quick guy.
He gets the ball out quick. He gets the ball out quick in the offense where the player can make the play, when the playmakers can make plays. I see him being efficient. I see him, having a very efficient is the good word for him. Just having a very efficient game. Is he going to throw for 350 and 5 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns? Probably not. He's going to be in that 230 to 260 range. He should have at least a couple of touchdowns. Him leading us, I would suspect that we would do pretty good in the red zone. But he's not going to be the guy to go out there and just, throw for 125 yards and, 40% completion percentage.
If you remember, when the Raiders played the Broncos the first time last season was week 6, and that's when Josh Jacobs went off. And that's right kind of when Josh McDaniels realized, hey, we got to lean this offense on Josh Jacobs, right? It was the Seahawks in week 5 and the Broncos in week 6. That's when McDaniels is like, oh, wait, this isn't the offense I thought I made. It's Jacobs is going to have to be our star. I wonder if they can do that this early with Josh Jacobs coming in so late, right? Or like, hey, can we give the guy the ball 30 times? Maybe, maybe not. How much does that change the game plan? Because we know it worked before. It took Josh McDaniels kind of, 4-5 weeks-ish to be like, all right, this is the offense we need to put together to succeed. Can he do that this quickly with the Josh Jacobs that's been sitting out for a while?
Well, he would know. I mean, he's been practicing for a week now, so he would know if he's got the legs under him to do it. He hadn't taken any pounding in training camp, so he's relatively fresh. But does he have his game legs under him?
We shall see.
Ready
to do some What Up Windbags?
Before we do, I actually sent something to Twitter.
To the Twitter? What's that?
X.
A thing called X.
Have
you heard anybody say, like, has at one time has someone said, like, oh, Twitter? And you're like, whoa, it's called X now, bro.
Listen, bro.
No
be up
one's
at the times.
Nobody.
Chandler Jones actually posted the letter that he was showed burning. If you want to show that. You can maybe take a look at that.
Let me find it.
That's for me. No, I sent it to you. It's in your inbox. I DM'd you.
Put it in my box.
Yeah, you like that?
Here's the letter that got deleted. Oh, geez.
Yeah. I read it, and
You got the same handwriting I do. Terrible.
Zoom in on that motherfucker. All right, you want me to read it?
Well, it doesn't zoom. I used to think my idols were crazy. One, my blood, my twin, John Bones Jones. We shared the same bunk bed. The older we got, the media projected him to be insane, an animal. I thought to myself, this is not the guy I grew up with. We don't need details. We all see him get crucified in media. Two, Yeezy, Jesus Walks. Got me through life as a kid, growing up in Rochester, New York. It's not the most safe hood in New York. That song made me feel invincible. I wanted to something to it forever.
Listen
to it forever. Speaking that it was Kanye, and he spoke about Jesus and God. My twin, bro.
My Twitter, bro.
My Twitter, bro, hasn't changed since I've made it. I thought it was amazing. Speaking that my dad is a preacher. Well, we all know how he's being crucified being media. 3, Antonio Brown. 4, Alden Smith. These men were being provoked, and I believe were afforded to talk about it.
Afraid
to talk about it. But were put on blast when they react. Well, it's now my turn. I've been provoked for 12 years. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. Signed, Strong Black Man. I am Chandler Jones.
Not number 55.
Not number 55.
Bro, if he's
the victim here.
If he's looking up to John Jones and fucking Yeezy, bro.
And Antonio Brown and Alden Smith.
Look, man.
That's a Mensa meeting that really got put together fun.
I'm very concerned now. I'm very concerned for Chandler Jones if he's like, these guys were all basically set up.
Yeah. And they were the victims here.
Dude, Yeezy was just filmed on a fucking public gondola boat ride getting topped off by his fucking chick with his ass cheeks out. Like, that's not normal behavior in the daytime, in the middle of the fucking day. And look, his brother, amazing fighter, right? But he's kind of a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he did a hit and run on a pregnant lady, like, and broke her arm, I think, and dipped. And he came back to get his drugs and dipped again. Like, that's not shit that the media pushes on him. Like, he hid under the freaking cage at Jackson Wink because USADA went to go freaking find him for like 4 hours.
So no fighter has been stripped of their title more than once, except John Jones. He's been stripped 3 times for failed drug tests, criminal behavior. He's like broken records. So he became champion 12 years ago, right? 2011, he became champion. You want to hear the craziest stat in MMA history? John Jones became champion 12 years ago. In those 12 years, he put up the resume of the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Greatest, unquestionably. Better than Conor McGregor, better than George St. Pierre, better than Anderson Silva, better than Demetrius Johnson, better than Fedor, better than anybody. Greatest fighter of all time. In those 12 years, he spent 6 of them. 6 of them on the shelf. 3 of those years in contract negotiations, and 3 of them serving suspensions. He spent half of his championship reign on the shelf because of his fuckery.
And that's someone that you're like, oh, he's now. I feel like he feels. Wait a second, what did you do then? If you're looking up to freaking John Jones and freaking Kanye West and calling them martyrs, like they're being persecuted, like provoked, like what the fuck?
Like, I'm just like them. I'm in the same position they are. Like, oh,
wow,
really?
And he must have done something. Look, it sounds now, having read that, like there may be some kind of mental issue happening. And I'm not trying to project anything on him. I just don't get how he can say that John Jones and Kanye West have been unfairly portrayed in the media. I think they've done a lot on their own to bring that negative attention.
I would say John Jones has gotten the best from the media. I feel like the media has protected John more than attacked him. Personally.
Yeah, the negative stuff. Look, I think Kanye has been shit on more by the media than John Jones. I think the crap that people talk about John Jones are just factual things that he's like being charged with. It's not like they're talking shit on the guy. It's like this is what he's being charged with, and that can be looked at shit talk because it's negative. It's a shame.
To follow.
That's a rough letter, man.
Yeah. All right, for realsies, what up, Windbags? And Fuego 75 Carlos. I will ask you, Windbags, is this Patrick Graham's make or break season? Draft 2 defensive tackles and trade 1 and practice squad. Bad drafting? ? Raider Nation for life. We talk a lot about is it Josh McDaniels make or break season, Dave Ziegler's make or break season. I feel like we kind of feel like Patrick Graham is kind of lumped into that, like he's kind of attached to it, but that's not true. I mean, he's as independent as anything. I guess if the offense does fantastic this season, the defense does terrible, I think Josh McDaniels can be like, yeah, we're going to make Patrick Graham the scapegoat here for a losing season, move on from him.
Yeah, I think unless the defense completely falls on its face, I think he's fine.
What's falling on its face? Same as last season?
Yeah, if it doesn't get any better.
Because the Raiders last year were, I think, 26th in points allowed per game and 30th in defensive DVOA because we went against some of the worst quarterbacks in football. And so I think our points given up is a little stratified, so that DVOA kind of brings that to light a little bit better. When you have Maxx Crosby, who's playing lights out and healthy all season, and you're still the third worst defense in the NFL, I get it. The cupboards were pretty bare. Not a lot of good players. Patrick Graham's working with a skeleton crew.
Very true. I think we can agree that the personnel has gotten, if not significantly, at least marginally better.
It has gotten marginally better. But if you still have the third worst defense in football with Maxx Crosby, that's a really bad sign. So it's not like he's got like, hey, look what I did last year. It's like, no, you have to make up for last year. You're not, you know what I mean? Like you've dug yourself into a hole last year. It was a bad performance last year, right? It needs to be improved. Steven Richardson, 4555. Jimmy sounded butthurt. Could have just said, I am now a Raider, point blank, period. This is him getting some heat from mostly just Stephen A. Spouting hot air. But some of Raider Nation saying, Jimmy G, when you were asked about Trey Lance, you should have said nothing. I'm a Raider. You think he sounded butthurt?
I don't think so. And it would have been different if they asked, like, hey, the Niners just traded away a top draft pick. What do you think is going on over there with the 49ers? And he would have said, like, oh, there's some weird stuff going on over there. Like, that's one thing. But he was like, hey, man, what do you think? Trey Lance, what's going on with Trey Lance? The Trey Lance situation? Yeah, it's could be semantics, but it's what you're focusing on as far as the subject, as far as either Trey Lance, the player, or the organization of the Niners. I think he came off kind of like whatever. Like, well, man, it sucks. It's I hope he does well. That's some same shit going on over there.
Well, two things. One, I think this is very Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he's a great looking single dude, multimillionaire, NFL quarterback. Smashing porn stars, living a great life.
Clappity.
He's gonna be a happy-go-lucky dude that answers your questions. That's who he is. He is living the life. And we think like when players are on IR as often as he is and hurt as often as they are, you're like, oh man, he must be distraught, just in complete depression. Being a NFL quarterback on the IR is a great life. Like you're still the multimillionaire, you're still famous, you're still great looking, you're still smashing porn stars, and you don't have to go to work.
But can I get some?
And you don't have to go to work. Like life is really good if you're Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a really, really good life, right? Yeah. We always look at it in terms of football. He's the dude that like I don't know, he sprains his ankle in a union job and he gets like the next 6 weeks full pay and benefits and doesn't have to go to work. Like he's in a good spot. He's the happy dude.
I think he's all right.
So he's gonna answer questions like that as a happy guy. 2, I think he painted that whole Trey Lance San Francisco 49er things. I think he's looking at it through rose-colored glasses. Like, it isn't weird. It was a debacle. It was a sham. It was the Titanic hitting an iceberg, trading 3 first-round picks to move up to a guy who lost his job to Sam Bradford and Mr. Irrelevant. That's not weird. That's a
Darnold.
Sam Darnold. That's not weird. That's a travesty. That's an apocalypse. That's worst case scenario. That is all sorts of hyperbole. And if Jimmy G would have said those things, he would have been correct. He would have been absolutely correct to be like, yeah, the Niners really fucked up. Like they blew it. Like it was a bad situation. Like talk about a waste of resources. Like that would torpedo most franchises. And he would be correct. Instead, he said, yeah, it was kind of weird. Like, what a nice way to put a terrible situation. Like, could he have honestly said anything about that situation with more kid gloves that wasn't an outright lie? I can't think of a nicer way to put it that isn't a lie.
Look, whiffing on a first-round pick is not weird. Replacing that first-round pick that you spent 3 first-rounders for with Mr. Irrelevant, that's weird. So for him to say there's some weird stuff going on over there, I think he's right.
And not just wasting a first-round pick. It's using 3 first-round picks to move up to get 3rd overall, and it's a complete sham. Like that is we talk about drafting Henry Ruggs as a giant calamity mistake. We talk about drafting Damon Arnett. Like, oh man, they really screwed up. Like that was what if we talked about drafting Alex Leatherwood as like, yeah, that was kind of weird. You know, like, oh, you know, we drafted him, you know, and it was kind of weird. You'd be like, dude, why are you protecting that situation? Why are you talking about it so calmly? And then you take that times 3, the Trey Lance situation, and all you can say is like weird. That's the nicest way to put it. That's the nicest way Jimmy G could have put it. Come on.
Yeah.
Ken Kress, 3665. Sorry for chiming in twice. Problem, buddy. Wish I could double like you. Raiders fucked up by not taking the 5th-year option and playing Josh Jacobs like a rookie in last year's preseason. Josh Jacobs is right to say, fuck the Raiders. So we've talked about this a couple times. Technically, yes, it was a screw-up not using the 5th-year option, because it would have been $8.5 million instead of the 10 and now the 12. So technically, yes, they would have, if they had the foresight to know that Josh Jacobs was going to have a career year this season. Yes, I guess technically it was an error, but every single person I know with half a brain would have done the same thing in that situation. You couldn't imagine that Josh Jacobs was going to have this kind of season and have to pay and be stuck with 1 year, $8.5 million for a running back. Like you couldn't have foreseen that. And the other side of this coin that I don't think people are talking about is at the time, which is why the $12 million is weird. And that's why I feel like Josh Jacobs kind of got one over in the Raiders a little bit. At the time, you're like, all right, if we don't use the 5th-year option for 8.5, we can always franchise tag him for 10. So you're only risking $1.5 million if you're wrong, which in the grand scheme of things with the salary cap, what it is, $1.5 million is in like the couch cushions of a GM when they're dealing with a salary cap.
Mm-hmm. So what we're not remembering here is that Josh Jacobs' production was declining steadily from his rookie season into his second, into his third season. So because of that, yeah, it wasn't a stretch to not pick up the 5th year. Mm-hmm. I think what we're doing is playing a little bit revisionist history here. Mr. Ken Kress is being a little bit, I told you so after the fact type of guy. of course, had we known, like you said, yeah, that it would have been a mistake not to do so. But not picking up that, he didn't even hit 1,000 yards, or not. He didn't even hit 900 yards the year before. He like doubled his output.
In hindsight, technically, yes, it was an error. But I don't know a single member of Raider Nation that was like, "Oh yeah, pick up that 5th." Well, no, that's not true. There's a lot of giant Josh Jacobs fans. Yeah. But I would have ripped him for picking up that 5th-year option. I said, mistake, shouldn't have done it."
I don't know that there were many football people around the league who were saying that it was a mistake beforehand.
And what did it cost the Raiders? It should have cost 1.5 and ended up costing 3.5, which is a little bit more because Josh Jacobs was able to get more out of a contract that was rock tight. But at the time, you're like, all right, if we're wrong, it's only going to cost us $1.5 million more. That's a gamble worth taking. So no, I'm not gonna get on Ziegler and them for not picking up his 5th.
Ziegler and them.
All right, that's it for us. Soto will be solo for the post show. I will be on an airplane. I made peace with the fact that my work schedule, week 1, I'm always going to miss, and the Super Bowl. I'm either going to have to watch it in an airport or not watch it at all for as long as I have this job.
Death row.
So you're on your own. I'll be with you in spirit. I'll be with you.
Please don't. Just don't be with me.
I will. I'll be with you in spirit. I'll be haunting you. Haunting your dreams.
Do that.
In Australia.
I don't want to think about that. I want to be able to take a poop in peace.
At 30,000 feet, I'll be haunting you. And until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.